Good afternoon or morning if you're coming into us from Australia. Welcome to 2023's first Chameleon Live. It seems like a long time between drinks, but we've had some awesome demand from the whole audience from last year, so we're excited to kick off again this year and get underway. So appreciate all your support. Yeah, we've got a cracking topic to sink our teeth into today: aligning learning strategy with business goals. And with me, because I'm not a guru on that, funnily enough. So with me, I've got two gentlemen joining me for a discussion today. First of all, I've got Dan Tohill. Dan is the group CEO of Inspire Group, also the founder. I had a look at LinkedIn earlier today, Dan, 22 years and 8 months. So, wow, we're knocking on the door of 23. I'm looking forward to the 30-year party, to be fair. Before that, Dan was tied up in Sistock. So he's been in the world of learning for a pretty long time. His hair's not showing it just yet. Dan's a great guitar player, loves a good riff, and he brings that often into the world of business as well. And I have it known that I haven't tasted it yet, but an exceptional cake maker as well, I hear, along with his lovely wife and daughter and son. And then also Stu Neighbour. So Stu is CEO of Inspire Group Australia. Like Dan, he's been with Inspire Group for a fair old time, not quite as long as Dan, but 17 years. Too long. Before that, and Stu has gone on a number of roles with Inspire Group. Actually started out as an instructional designer, I think, initially, moving from Sky City across to Inspire Group, and before that, Westpac, or was the other way around? Maybe I'm not quite sure.
Westpac, Sky City. Yeah.
Yep, cool. Stu, big fan of graphic novels, great TV shows. And scrambled eggs at Stagger Lee's in Fitzroy, Melbourne. One of our shared passions. I've been lucky enough to call, I guess, Stu and Dan colleagues for a long time. Also consider them to be really good mates as well. So excited to get them to share some pearls of wisdom with you today. Any words you guys want to? Do you guys want to say hello or anything before we kick into it, or should we just sink our teeth into the?
Kia ora tātou. That'll be me.
Excellent.
Hi, looking forward to getting into it. Let's rip the band-aid off. Let's do it.
Awesome. By the way, some housekeeping issues. Well, not issues, but if you've got any questions, please feel to drop them into the chat. Kia ora, everyone's saying hello. Very nice to have you all on the call. We've got a really amazing group of in the audience today as well, so excited to have you all along. Some people who have been to Chameleon Live before, and some new folks as well. For those of you who are new, this is an interactive session. If you've got any questions of myself, probably not, but more so Dan and Stu, pop them into the chat. I'll do my best to moderate those throughout the discussion and bring those to the fore. So, as I said, today's session is all about aligning learning strategy with business goals. But before we get into the heavy hitting stuff, I know you're a fan of the guitar as well, Stu Bucker. Tell me, gentlemen, your favourite album of all time, just to kick things off. Anyone?
You go first, Dan.
Who's going first?
I think
Dan.
that's super hard. I would say David Bowie's Ziggy Stardust would probably be an awesome album. I don't think there's any filler on that one. So it would be in my top 50. There you go. Top 10. There you go.
Okay, good. Stu, approve?
Look, it's a cliche one. Like it's, and you wouldn't be playing it all the time, but in terms of impact on me growing up as a young dude, Van Halen, debut album straight out of the gate, just fire from beginning to end, and you got to go with Van Halen's debut, one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah, good. I see we've got some approval coming through from the audience as well. Because you asked, I'll tell you mine. Rumours by Fleetwood Mac.
Oh, so, nice.
I'll put it out there.
Knew it.
Yep, you probably knew that already. Okay, next question. These are just some quick fire ones, right? we're putting together a special meal. Someone's on dessert, someone's on the main. Who's going to be on the main out of you two?
I'll go main.
Your main, so your dessert, Stu, no pressure.
Can I go starters actually?
Yep. Okay, we're not doing
And
dessert. We're just going to have.
you're on dessert, Reese.
Okay, cool. So Dan, okay, we'll start with you then, Stu. What's for the starter?
I don't know.
What are we cooking up? Well, come on, mate.
Oh,
Make something.
let's just go with just a simple. Let's go with some crumb calamari on a little
bread and butter.
I was worried he's going to say chip and
calamari
dip.
on a bed of rocket. There you go.
Oh,
Good,
nice.
good. And Dan, to follow that up, what are we doing for main?
I was going to go beef fillet, some sort of potato gratin with a pear, rocket, and blue cheese salad.
Far out. Well, that
So
definitely shows up for calamari.
Super easy to prepare.
Reese's Tip Top ice cream from the local New World.
Oh, between two wafers, love it.
That was going to be on the side, but I was going to do a sticky date pudding.
Oh,
to be
nice.
fair, with a nice caramel sauce on
Caramel
top.
sauce.
Okay, and last question before we get into the meaty stuff. You can both invite 3 people, dead or alive, to this dinner. Anyone in the world. Who are you inviting? Don't say me. Who's going
Daniel?
first?
Barack Obama, Bob Dylan, and Stu Neighbour.
Stu?
Look, I'm going to go for for a variety of reasons in terms of what you got to think about. What are they going to bring to the table? I wouldn't bring much, Dan, apart from a bottle of wine. Let's go with Muhammad Ali.
Good.
Rick Mayall, and Dolly Parton.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Actually,
Okay.
I'll switch out Stu for Dolly Parton if that's all right.
Well, no, they're all coming. So.
Oh, I see. Oh, nice.
Yeah. Happy days. Okay, right. Thank you, gentlemen, for enlightening me on all those wonderful answers. Hopefully, the rest of this will be a bit more meaty than what we've just gone through. So, I've got 4 main questions I want to get through today. The first is around this notion. So, we're talking about strategy, obviously, L&D strategy, and what I'm seeing out there at the moment is a heap of content around trying to align that L&D strategy to the organizational strategy. Interesting to get both of your perspectives on that. And I guess, do you think this is something that modern L&D teams are struggling with? And if so, why? Who wants to go first?
I always go first. I'm going to handball this one to Stu.
Yeah, go, Dan. Oh, right. Okay, Stu. Here we go. Under the bus.
I'll probably, as I always do, just hijack this thing and as Dan said, zag when everyone's zigging. I don't think L&D is spending enough time on strategy. I think L&D is spending a lot of time on the problems of its own making. I think L&D is focusing on what technologies should we be using, looking at their content suite, how do we change how people feel about learning, which is all problems of their own making. I think creating a really robust learning strategy that aligns with a business strategy or business outcomes, and we can get more into the actual detail of that. But I think, I think one of the challenges is that L&D spends, one of the biggest challenges too, that sometimes in businesses, as we know, the only people that care about L&D are L&D, and that's the bigger question. When you exist in a business and the only people that really care about it are you, then you've got bigger problems and strategy going on. But I think that's one of the challenges that L&D had is not enough time on creating a learning strategy and then even executing on it. But I'll pass back to my far more knowledgeable colleague on this one.
Maybe more seasoned, Stu.
Yeah.
I sort of thought about this question. It kind of comes down to, in my experience, I've sort of seen 3 things. So first of all, we want an L&D strategy for our whole organisation, right? Mm-hmm. Or we want an L&D strategy for this new business unit or this new team that we're going to set up, right? Or we want an L&D strategy for some new program or initiative. So to me, and the work that we get involved in, they might cover all 3, and I can think of examples that are covering all 3 right now, either that we've completed or that we've not. I think fundamentally, from an alignment perspective, the simplest question I always think is the best is if it's at an organisational level, who and what do they need to be doing differently to make the organisational strategy successful, right? So how do they need to be behaving differently? And then the L&D strategy needs to dovetail into that. And I hear you, Stuart. It's not, oh, we're going to do some more digital learning or we're going to replace the platform. That might be part of the execution plan, but that's not the strategy. That's the plan to get there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does to me. It does to me, I guess. And to come back to your point, Stu, around who does the onus fall on, do you think? Is it the L&D teams that are not putting their hands up enough in this space? Or do you feel like it's on the other side of the fence and it's like, hey, they're actually not being empowered to do that?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of. I think if you look at a lot of organisations, the L&D team is relatively small, based on the size of the organisation. So you end up just based on those dynamics being a very top-down approach, which gets us into the whole L&D end up being order takers, and they're being told, "Hey, we need to update all. You need to update all this compliance stuff. We need a leadership program." And it's kind of like. That's one of the challenges that I think L&D, and we always talk about getting a seat at the table. But there's a fundamental issue in a lot of organisations of, and sometimes it's just paying lip service to L&D. We have L&D because we have to have L&D. And I'm not saying this for everybody, but I've worked with enough organisations to know very, very early on whether learning is seen as an investment or an expense. And if it's seen as an expense, it flavours every single conversation and every single decision that's made in that business when it comes to culture. If it's seen as an investment, it's very, very different. So I think there are some challenges that any learning team, I think, faces within organisations, even more so right now than it was pre-pandemic.
Yeah, what do you see from those organisations that see it as an investment as opposed to an expense? Like, if I walked into an L&D team or organisation and I thought, holy cow, these guys really rate learning and they're investing in it, and it manifests itself right through an organisation, not just from the L&D team but through everyone in the business. What sort of stuff would you expect to see? And that's probably for both of you. Question without notice.
Dano?
Yeah, I'll take this one, and then I'll handball to Stu. A lot of learning objects that are created or learning that's done, they're not really treated like assets. So, there's millions of dollars spent on learning within organisations every year. But most of the time they don't regard what is created and or what is done with much rigour. And I think that would be one of the things that I would see. I guess the other thing is that, everyone's got a budget and everyone's got a timeline, but what are we trying to achieve with these people? And therefore, what should we do? And therefore, what should it cost? And sometimes the budgets are too big and oftentimes they're too small. And so I think, that expense thinking, like you're saying, Stu, it's almost like, well, can we do as little as possible with what we've got? And I understand that constraint, but doing half of what you need might get you 0 results as opposed to, 50% results.
Anything to add to that, Stu?
Oh, look, I think I always think about that. It's the classic of the organisations that see it as an investment. I think there's really clear career pathways and learning journeys for everybody. It's all very transparent. If I want to see what a learning journey or a career pathway looks like with this role, I can click in and I can see it and I can see what's going on. And I don't know, very much around everyone being really clear about what's the difference between information and learning and seeing. And then on top of that, also that whole learning integrated into work. Like, it's almost like learning becomes part of the conversation in terms of the rituals. The rituals is a really interesting thing for me around every day. There are meetings that people have every day, and there are rituals that happen every day in that organisation. And you'll see if learning's there might be just a reflection question at the end of a meeting, and you're going, "Oh, these guys, that's interesting. These guys get it." Like, they're not creating events and courses, and it's not. And again, it's not. There's content there if you need it, but it's not the focus. It's everything else that goes on that is around learning. And the biggest thing, and this could be a separate conversation, we could do a whole session on this. The biggest thing I come back to all the time now is around how does that organisation view mistakes and failure? and shine a light on them and celebrate them and let people make mistakes and stuff up. And it's not about quizzes, and it's not about tests, and it's not about compliance, and it's not about 100%. You'll see really quickly if this is an organization that's like, hey, we stuffed this thing up and this is how we learned from it and this is what we did next time. And then different conversation, another live webinar, experimentation. You'll see experimentation happening everywhere all the time. Anyway, I could go on for ages about what that would look like if an organization was really getting it.
Yeah, I know, Stu and I, over many a scrambled egg, might I add, we've had numerous conversations about Richard's, what's his last name? Is it Thaler? Is that how I say it right? Taylor? The nudge theory.
Yes.
About how, you know, this is a passion project of yours, trying to introduce learning into organizations when it doesn't even look like learning, doesn't even feel like learning. People are learning without even knowing they're learning. And I think that's sort of, I guess, transcending what we're currently talking about, right? Is having those standalone initiatives and events, if you will. Okay, so picking up another one of your points, I can't recall who made it, was Dan or Stu, but having a seat at the table, so to speak. So where do you think, like, L&D teams at a strategic level are falling down in terms of keeping that alignment strong? And when they are falling down, how do you think that is affecting the business?
Dan, you've always got great thoughts on this stuff.
Get super clear about who your stakeholders are internally in the organisation. I worked at Westpac years ago when you were there, Stewie, I know, or maybe I just left or something. But, you know, in large organisations, you want to get super clear about who your stakeholders are. Not all of them are going to be champions for L&D either. But those that are, get super clear about trying to understand what's going to make the difference for these folks, because you're there to serve the learners, but also there to serve them. So I think that stakeholder engagement is really important. And I guess try not to speak too much L&D to those stakeholders either, because essentially you're going to generate something or craft something that's going to shift human behaviour for these folks so they meet their business outcomes. And that's generally the language I think would be better than talking about, I don't know, Kirkpatrick levels of evaluation or some process that you might think's cool, but the sponsor or the stakeholders doesn't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah. We'll dive into that soon, though. The measurement, Dan.
Did I jump the gun? Sorry.
No, not at all. I know it's a passion for you. So, what about you, Stu? What's your perspective on that one?
Look, I think that, it comes back to the start. Like we talk about, business goals. What are the outcomes a business is looking for? We want these outcomes in the next year, and then the strategy is obviously how we're going to get there. But getting a seat at the table, I think you've just got to. It's having these conversations going, right, for example, a business goal could be, we want to improve our employee engagement and our NPS by this to this, it's currently this, and we want to go to this. And okay, that's the goal. So from a learning point of view, you might be like, well, like finding out why is that number right now? And you might break it down into people, process, culture, systems, or whatever it is. And you might go, there's a whole bunch of reasons why it sucks. And you're working all those things out, and then from a learning strategy point of view, you're sort of going like, okay, well, what's going to make the biggest difference here? Where's the biggest gap? Are there any quick wins we can get? What's the biggest challenge? And that comes back to old Dano, our strategy guy. But you might identify, hey, because of the NPS, that's the business goal. From a learning strategy point of view, we've identified one of the biggest challenges. I'll just take an easy one. We're going, hey, employee induction. It's pretty haphazard. It's inconsistent. And people are marking us down based on their first 3 months in the business. That's something that we know from a learning point of view we can make a difference. And then you sort of get into the whole classic, this is where learning kind of starts to get a little bit messy. But you're going, right, we're going to focus on updating the employee induction. What are our design principles? What are our guiding principles when it comes to induction? From a learning point of view, you might go, right, it needs to be values-based. It needs to be scalable. It needs to be autonomous. It needs to be story-led, or whatever it is, these design principles. And then you do an action plan. And an action plan could be, first, we're going to do this. Next, we're going to do this. And as Dan said, plain English. The kid will get away from all the bloody theory and stuff. Then we're going to do this. Then we're going to do this, and then start. And the reason why the principles are important is because, as you know, when you start doing stuff, everyone gets involved and they start throwing things in. And what about this? And what about this? And then you can go, no. Our guiding principles, remember, values based. And there's a lot of stuff in here that is not about values right now, so it goes. So your guiding principles keep you on the handrails. They'll keep you focused. And then, and this is getting into the other stuff, but most importantly, just and then feeds into get something out there, experiment, test it with real people, not with your bloody SME group. They are not your learners. Get something out there. But again, it all comes back to this is the business goal, this is the what, improve our NPS, and then learning comes in and says, right, from a learning point of view, as Dan says, where's the gap? Where's the biggest challenge here from a behaviour, skill, or whatever it is? And you might come up with a whole list of them from a learning point of view, but you've got to start somewhere. I think sometimes we end up being stuck in our, you can easily end up stuck in a strategy document for 6 months. Doesn't go anywhere. And everyone feels really busy because this document's looking really good. We've had lots of input. By the time you've done it, you've already got a whole new host of problems and the business has moved on, and it's speed. Because the business is moving really, as everyone knows right now, business is moving, the world's moving really, really quickly, and learning needs to go at that speed.
I think what I also heard there, Stu, is L&D people, I don't know if they understand they're actually in sales. Part of when you're influencing without authority, right, or whatever, your internal influence, it's a sales gig, right? And what great looks like is people are asking qualifying questions, and what not great looks like is people don't. They just go take orders, right? So, Stewie mentioned NPS, and we've had these conversations because we are in sales. So what else is happening in the business? Oh, we're not going to change our pricing. We're not going to change our product. Oh, okay, but you want to increase NPS? Yeah, okay, cool. So is it that you just want people to do something differently? Yes, spot on. That's exactly it. You go, fantastic, cool. Well, that's learning.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah,
I mean, there's your alignment, right? So we're going to do something with these folks, and that's going to help you shift the dial in NPS. So I think that realization that these folks are in sales, or it's a big part of their job, or they're influencing stakeholders, would help them dearly.
I'll add one more too with this whole getting a seat at the table and things like that. I think if I could change one thing too, I think there's very much learning kind of, whether it's been put on it or whether it's just the culture of the business, everything's often very siloed and learning's in its own little silo. If I could wave a magic wand, I would be aligning and doing cross-functional. I would be working with your comms team and your marketing team really, really closely. If you think about comms is all about raising awareness and communication, right, in the business. Marketing is all about behavior change. I want you to do more of this and less of this and buy this and all that sort of stuff. Learning is kind of a combo of both. We're trying to raise awareness and we're trying to change behavior. So it would be crazy, if you're doing a learning strategy, I'd want to know what the marketing strategy is. I'd want to know what the comm strategy is, and kind of do a little bit of a cross-pollination so they're all talking to each other, because, of course, nothing's going to go, there's a business strategy, a comm strategy, a marketing strategy, a learning strategy. Well, if they're going to drop one, which one do you think they're going to drop? I would be, again, learning strategy, I think, should be created with others and not in a silo, and be really part of the business. And like I said, if you'd be talking to two groups within that business more, I think they should be working more together, your comms team and your marketing team.
Cool.
Yeah, I love that. You're dovetailing very nicely into my next point or question, Stu, around how do we, getting that thorough understanding of an organization's goals and objectives before designing the L&D strategy. And I think that's what we're leaning into here, right? Is for want of a better word, buddying up with different cross-functional teams in the business, so that I guess it's promoting the brand of learning, right? That's what we're trying to do here, and align it to those business goals to push the case forward as well.
I think brand promotion is an outcome of doing a good job, right? And shifting the dial and reminding people that you have, and not getting too caught up in in all of the metrics and stats, because you guys have heard this story from me before, but years ago I'd spend hours or days of spreadsheets and blah blah blah, and I'd present all this stuff, and they'd go, "Well, you would say that, wouldn't you?" Right? So but coming back to your point, sorry, Stu. With your sponsors, they want something to increase or decrease, right, or to mitigate some sort of risk, and it just gets super super basic with them, right?
Let's talk about like that sponsor part quickly, Dan. How do you like what do you think the best way to involve sponsors in projects is in SMEs? I guess for that, I can see you smiling.
Put SME to the side. I think sponsors that to me would be the person with the problem and probably the budget, right? Just so we're super clear about who they are. And sometimes there's a bunch of different sponsors. However, on occasion, generally they're not all the same, and there'll be one key sponsor that you need to satiate their need and work towards meeting their business outcomes. And I think just get super, super clear. And like, Stu was saying NPS. So if it's NPS, okay, well, what's going on? How's it been looking? What's the trend? You've got to dig a bit deep. And I don't think it takes that amount. It doesn't take that long, but you've got to ask some tough questions. And I've heard you do this, Stu, saying, well, what if we didn't do the learning? What would happen then? Good question. Maybe we just won't do this. That's a great thing to ask a client. Maybe we'll just do the awareness piece. Let's not do this learning stuff, because that's where you're going to spend your money. Oh no, we go.
Yeah. No, and I've been privy to that. I can't remember who we were working with at the time, Stu, but I remember they were saying, "Hey, we need this e-learning module," and you're like, don't think so. I feel like this is a one-page PDF, and we might save 20 grand here or whatever the amount was, and we could invest it in another part of the business that is going to have bigger impact. So I think it's having the courage to push back on some of those requests that are coming through from different departments in the across the organisation.
I think it's easier when we're external because we can walk away from the job. When you're internal, they're like, "What the hell? Who do you work for?
Yeah,
who are you here to serve?"
Yeah. Hey Stu, when you were talking before, I couldn't help but pick up some points that I'd picked up out of a book I know you both of you gentlemen are big fans of. Good strategy, bad strategy.
Yeah.
The whole kernel piece.
Yeah. Exactly. It's strategy gets very overcomplicated. And he broke it down. Richard Bromwell in the book was like, "What's your what? Like, where's the challenge? Where's the problem?" As Dan said, you got to have that. There's like a can't. One of the issues is that often strategy documents end up just being a list of goals. These are things we want to do. It's not a strategy. Like, where's the challenge? What's our guiding behaviours, or what's our guiding principles in terms to from a learning perspective, in terms of us working on this, and then most importantly, just getting started. But like I said, aligning that with what's marketing doing, what's comms doing. Like, can we make sure that we're overlapping here, or we're saying the same thing? Because we all know too from doing things, there's not a lot of bandwidth out there when you're working. Like, you've got a job to do, you've got all this sort of stuff, and anything else that comes across in regards to learning. We know there's all this compliance, and there's always stuff going on. And if you've got some learning thing that's happening, and also marketing's asking you to do something, and comms saying we need you to be aware of these things, well, if someone had stepped back and gone, actually, they're all kind of coming at the same thing from a different angle. We could have just done one thing. So it's, and the other thing is like plain English. Like, I think we just disappear up our own back end sometimes in learning with all the jargon and stuff, and people just don't care about that. They really don't. Like, it's learning gets stuck into theory, and we love all our models and all these sorts of things. And it's like I said, it really is keep it simple, but most importantly, just get started. I feel very sad sometimes the amount of good ideas that could have been executed really quickly and got into people's hands and got feedback on really, really quickly, but you just ended up in a bit of an iteration, scope creep, change, or it just didn't even get to that stage. It just stayed in the strategy document. Like, these things.
I guess there is tension there, though, Stu, where you're doing a strategy piece and there's a certain amount of engagement you have to do, and in the first 30% you kind of pretty much got those key themes, but the other 70% you still have to talk to those folks, because when you deliver the strategy, they go, no, that's great. You spoke to me, that's fantastic. I can see myself in there. So I appreciate the because if you take 6 months, the stuff shifted, right? So it's probably not going to be that relevant, but there's a certain amount of engagement that's needed, I think, with people so they kind of buy into it, if that makes sense. And then
you've got to take them on an emotional journey here. Like I always think it's like you're writing a. Sometimes I think we'd almost storyboard this out as a movie trailer. Like it's like going, hey guys, this is what we want to do in the next 5 years. These are our big goals. This is what we're gonna. This is how we're gonna get there. These are the things that are coming up that are going to impact you. This is why it's important. This is why it matters. And almost like if you had to write a script, and if it sounds crap, start it again. But you've got to. Sometimes it's like, hey, if you want me to go see a movie, play me. The trailer's going to get you hooked. What would your trailer for your strategy document look like? To get people invested, interested, raise awareness, get them emotionally engaged with it, and then they're with you. As Dan said, sometimes these things just go out there and it's like, do you know there's a new strategy out there? No idea, never heard about it. Don't know, I don't care.
Yeah. It's we hear that a lot, right? What goes wrong as well is the comms package that's wrapped around this stuff just falls off the back of the truck.
It's a good point. What I'm hearing there, guys, is like, who's the strategy for? Like who's the consumer of it? Who's the reader? Sometimes it's just the internal L&D team, and sure, okay, fine. But who's it really for? And then is there some way that you can, like Stewie's movie trailer, will encapsulate that in a couple of sentences or 3 or whatever, and say, hey, this is how we're going to do things around here. So the L&D team can be equipped then to go and serve the sponsors. If it's an L&D focused strategy, if it's focused on, I don't know, a program or initiative, I think it's different, right? So I think who's it for is probably a pretty good question.
And it comes back to what you said, Dan. We're all in sales. If you have this sales mindset, everything you're trying to do, it's a pitch. Like if I'm pitching the strategy to you, I want you to buy it. I want you to get excited by it. I want you to engage with it. You got to have that. Yeah, I think that sales mindset, that we're all in sales. It doesn't matter if you're whereabouts of, if you're a learning designer, you're in sales. You want someone to, if you're creating a workshop design or a session plan or a storyboard, you're trying to get the client to buy the storyboard. You want them to emotionally engage in it. We're all in sales. Every single output that you create is a sales opportunity, because if they don't buy it,
do you think sometimes, Pete, I know I was like this when I was younger, I'd be too nervous to ask questions like, why are we doing this? Who's going to read it? What's the point of it? What happens if we don't? In terms of strategy formulation.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. So,
plus I didn't even really know what one was, and that's a different story. But I think just what are we going to do with this? Are we just going to go pat ourselves on the back and go, oh, that's good, and put it in the bottom drawer, or I don't know, how's this going to change the way we do things and engage with the business?
There's so many strategy. Yeah. There's so many strategy models and documents out there. As you said, sometimes you go, if you don't know this stuff very well, you're like, oh, I wouldn't even know where to start. And sometimes if you look at organizational strategy documents and roadmaps going, they're getting better. But I've seen some absolute shockers where you're actually flicking through pages and pages and pages trying to find out what's the challenges here. Like, what is the world looking like that we're facing into, and how are we going to address them, and those sorts of things that we can then, from a learning side of view, work out how that supports that, and what do employees in the next 3 or 4 years need to be, to have jobs.
Yeah.
So that's what.
Yeah. Well, that's the key thing, right? It's as you said before, Stu, getting rid of all the fluff, right? So it's actually can be understood by everyone. So removing all the corporate. Yeah, great hint there from Sarah. To Sell as Human by Daniel Pink. Awesome read. I'm surprised you didn't talk about that, Stu, to be honest.
I think he hinted at it. Pretty.
I hinted at it. It's very, very true.
But then moving through to that diagnosis phase, understanding what the challenge we're trying to face. I think the guiding principles, and then, as you say, getting everyone on the same page. They need to be coherent actions, right? Without all of those steps, it's not really a strategy at all. It's just it's a challenge statement or a diagnostic. You need to go a bit deeper, right?
I
Otherwise,
think even getting super clear about how do they want this thing packaged, right? I was talking to a client the other day. The purist at one end. Sorry, man, getting to the screen, and the pragmatist, right? So do they want high level statements that they would be confident no one could ever take them to task on? I've had that before many years ago. Don't get too clear, Dan, because just in case we don't deliver on this, it's like, what the hell?
don't name any names.
This was before Inspire Group, right? So I'm like, what the really far out? Is this the way some organizations roll? So yeah, look, getting super clear about what is it that you're going to deliver, not just in terms of the ideas within the strategy, but what does it actually look like to them? Like you say, is it some sort of roadmap with some sort of problem statements and some sort of vision stuff on it,
Yeah, great book, by the way, as well. Good strategy, bad strategy. The author, Stu, you mentioned it a moment ago.
Richard Rumelt.
Yeah, cool. We'll put that in the notes as well. Just a reminder, folks, if you've got any questions of Dan or Stu, pop them in the chat. There's some interesting comments coming there. Will's made a comment. Yeah, absolutely. Smaller businesses, you're often going to find someone carrying communications, learning, and change as a kind of knowledge operations.
Yeah.
The essence of them all is that knowledge exchange, absolutely, and behaviour change, of course, as well. Fiona can count on one hand the number of times when I've recommended a course as being the best option to solve a business problem. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's often a PDF, right, or something else. So yeah, any questions you've got, pop them in there. Now I know this is a topic really close to your heart, Dan, and just to let you know, we've only got 23 minutes, not 4 hours. But ROI, it's something we all talk about. I know I have heaps and heaps of discussions about it. When we're talking about Chameleon, when we're talking about things like our hosted platform in terms of those different data points, notoriously a really, really hard thing in my experience, but I'm interested to get your perspective on this, to measure in L&D. Is this always a priority? First question.
No.
And okay, we'll dig into that in a moment. And then if so, what key metrics do you think the L&D and business can use it as that North Star when they are measuring their initiatives?
I'm sure we're almost 100% aligned on this, Stu. It's not always important, and I used to think it was, but it's not. However, when it is, the business should already use what they're measuring, because what they're measuring has already told them they've got some problem or some opportunity, right? We mentioned NPS before. It might be attrition rates, it might be sales, it might be error rates, it might be some sort of non-compliance type thing. So businesses generally are pretty good at valuing how big the upside or the downside might be. And trying to get a sense of that, I think, is important, right? So, if we did this thing, how many more $1 million would you make? Oh, another 40 million. Cool. What's the training budget, or what's the learning budget? Oh, it's 40K. Okay, fine. But also understanding the further we get to that level 4, the ROI, the less influence learning actually has, because there's other stuff going on, right? We mentioned NPS before, and it's like, oh, we recruited some new people, we did a rebrand, and we've got some more products on the shelves and some other thing. So the closer we get to that kind of level 4, if you use the Kirkpatrick framework, the harder it is for us to put a hand up and say we did that, right? Now, it doesn't mean that we couldn't have a conversation. Go, Stewie.
Oh, I agree with everything you said. Sometimes you don't need it. I think sometimes learning has to do ROI because they just haven't sold it properly. Sometimes if you sell it, don't like it, and as Dan says, the data's there. It's finding out sometimes what's the impact. I think then this gets to the wider thing. Sometimes learning spends too much time on assessment, and that's not going, oh well, we'll get look, we did this thing and it had 100% completion, or we realize that's ROI. Not really. It comes back to what's the in terms of, did it solve the business problem? How would we know? And there's going to be data in there to measure that. But most importantly, you might not get it straight away. Like that's the whole, you're not going to go, this is a problem when we did one thing, and this gets into the wider thing. Learning's never the magic bullet. Like if I've got a challenge or a problem and it's business related, there's probably going to be other factors involved. It could be leaders, it could be culture, it could be strategy, it could be systems. There's a whole bunch of things, and we need to identify going, well, learning can do this bit, but there's other things that need to happen too. And we might not get it straight away, but we just want to move the dial a little bit in the right direction and then sort of iterate and build on it and work on it. But I think sometimes we get, sometimes we either don't measure it, or if the number's not there, we point the finger and go, well, that didn't work. And it's like, well, it could have. And I think it did if we'd taken the feedback from real people out there and then, found out, hey, did that help? Would you like, sometimes it comes back to that Dan said, plain English, like going, are we going to make a thing? Did it help? Yes or no? Do you want more of this, less of this? And then let's put something else out there. But again, let's find out there are other things that need to happen in the business to also help shift this thing and make sure that we're all kind of speaking off the same page. So, but yeah, I think it's sometimes we always come back to we can overcomplicate a lot of this sort of stuff, which makes it hard sometimes to even get started.
Yeah, I mean, this is a story. I know you guys have heard me say this, and I'll change the organisations and the names. This is a while ago. One of our clients, very competitive environment, wanted to FUCK the competition. Like that's what the sponsor told me. Okay, so that was his key metric, right? So we did all this stuff, and they did some other stuff, and we pulled some stuff together, and ultimately, when I took them at a party, I don't know, probably 2 or 3 months later, did we FUCK the competition? In your estimation, yes, we did. Are you happy? Yes. Money well spent? Yes. Okay, great. Well, there's the ROI. So, I don't know, years prior to that, I might have got some big old spreadsheet and spent a couple of days trying to prove myself, but I didn't feel like I needed to with that person. So, I think we lose sight. So what's the sponsor really, what dial are we trying to influence here, folks? And how much proof do we need to give ourselves? Because sometimes ROI or evaluation, it's more useful for the L&D folks so they can tweak and change what they're doing as opposed to this for the sponsor. And that's cool as well. There's nothing wrong with that. But get super clear about why are you evaluating and which stakeholder is this evaluation for?
Yeah, a couple of things to talk about there. And I know you've got a bit of a diagram. I think you did the graphics on this as well, Dan.
I had someone tidy them up.
That you want to talk about. But a couple of things. So impact, Stu, like what's some examples of how you've seen impact measured? Because if I play this out right, let's say I'm the sponsor of a project and I come to you and I say, hey, I'm going to engage you in this campaign of learning for an induction. And I love what you're doing and I love the solution you've put forward. And I say, okay, but I'm going to have to measure or evaluate the success of this. You've mentioned feedback from learners as well. I completely agree. But how are you going to respond to that? You're in sales. You're trying to pitch me, a solution. And I'm saying, hey, cool. I get it. I know we're going to do this, but I need to understand how we're going to evaluate this. What would you suggest?
Oh, I think it comes back to there's going to be data metrics you're using already. It's like what's the dial you want to move in which direction and why is that? Like it could be, like I said, if you come back to an easy one like the NPS, we want to make an impact we might want to make a positive impact on the NPS. Okay, which part of the NPS? And then you sort of, and as Dan said, you start asking questions like, why is it that way right now? Like what's happened in the last couple of years that's moved it in that direction? Like what's the status quo and why does it suck? Like, let's just talk plain English about things like this, and then we can start going, okay, well, what would it look like if it didn't suck? What would the impact be in regards to, and you might have, again, a framework for like looking at different things. But yeah, I think it's, and then, yeah, most importantly, just kind of come back to it as always, just like, let's just experiment and let's just try some stuff. But yeah, it'll come. There's data that that right now that the number's going in the wrong direction or it's too low or whatever like that. Okay, what would the impact be if it was moving in the right direction? Like, what impact would that have on people? It's come back to what impact would it have on people at work every day in terms of their productivity, enjoyment of what they do. relationships with each other, all these sorts of things.
Yeah, I think Nish is, and I know you agree with this, Dan, but Nish made a really interesting comment. We use 2 metrics to guide us. So ROI, people stay with us, customers stay with us. So that's the ROI, but we lean harder towards ROE, which is return on expectations. And I think it's a really nice way of putting it, Nish. Right, talk to me about this, Dan. First of all, out of 10, Stu, on his design, what do you think?
It's not, it doesn't have that PowerPoint flair that Dan normally has, but it looks. I like the colours.
Yeah. I've got some feedback for you as customers of Chameleon, Dan. I'm disappointed this is not in a Chameleon module, but we'll talk about that separately.
We can do that later. Look, and anyone's welcome to this. We put in proposals all the time. But I guess something that I've learned over the years is we've got to get super clear about why are we evaluating. So ROI is one of them, right? And, there's some summative stuff like, this thing worked, but we provided the impact, and when might we measure that, and what metrics are you currently using? But there's also the summative, from an evaluation perspective, is like, well, we want to know who's turning up and whether or not they're liking it, because that's important for us as L&D, and it may be important to the sponsor, but then again, it may not, right? So I quite like I quite like just laying this out, and then also getting super clear as the closer we get, to that impact for the sponsor, the less influence we have, because other factors come into play, like you were saying, Stewie, other stuff. And that's fine. I mean, that's just the reality, right? So it's important to know that. And I think Fiona put a thing in there about government. Government, we use NPS or sales examples are pretty straightforward, but government in terms of broader outcomes and trying to shift the dial on some systemic racism that's been around for the last 150 years or whatever, right? So there may be some indicators that we can point to, but you're not going to pat yourself on the back and say problem solved, right?
No.
And look, I know that's a bit of a tangent, but I know in government, oftentimes they want to know that the thing got done, not necessarily that the thing provided the impact. I understand that, but we do want to look for some indicators around impact.
So this diagram, Dan, I guess not to go through the entire thing in detail. However, bringing it back to our topic for today, aligning business strategy to learning strategy. What are the key pullouts of this for someone, because we are going to share it as you said. Thank you for that, by the way. But what are the key parts here? So are we looking more at that sponsor level, or what? What are we?
Spot on. Yeah. So if the sponsor's the person with the problem and probably got the money, right? So what are you trying to do for them? And then how do you want people to? What do you want them to do differently, to believe, do, or know differently than what they're currently doing to meet that outcome, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we design some learning and we kind of package it all up and all of that. So oftentimes we're sort of playing around in the blue and the yellow, but we need to be talking in the red and the purple, and definitely the red. That's what I'd say. And just get real. What are we trying to achieve here?
Mm. So, and in your experience, is that not happening enough, or is that just?
Oh, look, I think you hinted at, Stewie. So, I mean, sometimes you get so busy taking orders and feeling as though you're sort of working well with your sponsors, because, we did that for you, that you're not saying, hey, what are we trying to do here? What's the best approach, or what's the problem that we're trying to solve? Enough of that. We don't have to look at that any longer.
No, it's good. It's one of your better ones. I'll give you that. And there's some graphics in there on the right hand side. So well played. Okay, cool. There's a couple of comments here. There's one in particular. You've got some thoughts on, Stu.
Is it Renell? I want to make sure I pronounce
yes.
Renell. That's we could do a webinar just on this. I break that in. There's 3 things going on. Like, firstly, there are so many available content out there. Yeah, there's too much. Learning often ends up buying huge content suites. I'd say, right, first part is look at your content. You get data on it. Where's the lowest eyeballs, just dump it. Like the old classic, if people don't use it, dump it, get rid of it. It comes back to where are the eyeballs going? What's the need on content? But we can talk more about that later. How can we help our learners avoid overwhelm? Again, that comes back to what's the culture of learning mean in the organisation. I had a friend just started work recently, and in her first week, she had like 15 online modules to do, and half of them they're crap, of course. But like it's the whole. I'm going to get on a rant, but it's like, yeah, we overwhelm our learners because we don't think about what does the actual work look like and when do they need this stuff. We front load stuff that they don't use for 6 bloody months. So you need to look at the entire way that learning is viewed in regards to your organisation, and that you could spend a whole hour talking about that. And yeah, how do you make learning a habit? Which is a great question, and we could spend a lot of time. But again, it comes right back to the start. What are the learning being a habit is not about getting them to do a thing without doing a thing. So when I'm not going to create a habit by getting you to an online module or getting you to go to a workshop. It comes back down to what's the operating rhythm of this business? What are the rituals that we have every day? And how can I integrate little things into it to get you to again, come back to that nudging? We're going full circle, Reese, to nudge you, better to have a contextual nudge using my hands rather than a cognitive shove. The old classic is, if I want you to read more books, I'm not going to, and I want to make it really easy for you, I'm not going to send you lists of books you should read. I'm not going to set up a Facebook group on book reading and get you all to attend. What I'll most likely do is find a part in the office. I don't know if we go into offices anymore, but if we did, find a wall, put up some shelves and put up some interesting books on there and just let it sit there. People will most likely want to buy and grab a book and take it home and read it. So I think it's, the habit part, I think learning should be working with the business, and that's where it comes back into learning and integrating learning into work. How do we get into the operating rhythms and rituals of our business and apply opportunities to shift behavior or get people to think differently? Just drop a really interesting question into every meeting to get people to think about it. So, and then it comes back to experimentation and trying things and testing them and getting feedback on it like a scientist. Like we need to be learning scientists here. But that's a great question. 3 parts. We could do an hour on each one and still have room for dessert.
A sticky date pudding, no doubt. Did you want to share? I see you nodding along on that, Dan. Is there anything you want to share as well?
Agree entirely, Stu. And I think most people are learning anyway. They just don't. There's no one that wouldn't. All the people on the call here, in the last 2 days, they've probably learned something, right?
100%. Yep.
So what are the leaders doing in terms of coaching people or their peers about asking that question? What did you learn this week? Could be anything. Could be how to bake a cake.
Yeah, that's a great example.
People are learning all the time.
People are learning all the time, and they're making. And again, it comes back to, I like going full circle. It comes back to, think about all the things that you're learning outside of work. You're just effing up, right? You make mistakes like baking a cake. You stuff up the first one. You're going, I should have put more flour in. I thought I knew what I was doing, or I had the heat wrong. And you adjust, and the next time you make it better. It's the same with learning guitar. I'm really stuck on this bit, so I'm not going to do the solo yet. I'm just going to chunk up that bit and just work on the rhythm. And for some reason, learning outside of work is all about mistakes and experimentation and not getting it right and enjoying the process and knowing that I'll get better the more I do. And for some reason in organizations, and it comes back to the Industrial Revolution education system, don't get me started, Daniel, we're in a compliance bucket, and it's all about we can't make mistakes. We've got to get it right first time. Errors, failure is not good. You should hide that under the rug. I could talk for another hour about that stuff, but we need to shift the dial. Shift the dial is such a cliche thing to say, but yeah, learning. There's room for improvement, as my school report always said.
You went the class clown like
Stu's got the right attitude, just needs to focus on a few things.
I always said must try harder, or I bet Daniel can do so much better. It's like, can I? I thought I was working pretty hard, but anyway.
Yeah, good. No, I hear you. And Fiona's just backed it up as well. Around failure being amazing. I was watching. I know you've both got kids, and there's probably heaps of people that have kids on the call today. But was watching my daughter, and we feel terrible for this, but she's just learning how to ride a bike properly. She's only 6. She's not 18 or anything, but watching her ride a bike out on the back lawn on Sunday, it was, and I thought a lot about this conversation here today, and just learning in general. Isn't it funny, like the amount of joy she had just from falling off and stuff, and going, okay, that didn't work quite right. I'll adjust my balance or whatever. I'll push off a bit faster. You're right. When it comes to learning, and I think when we become adults as well, I think things change as well, right? Like, because we've gone through school, and that's our attachment to what learning is.
Yeah.
Perfection is the worst thing for learning. Like, it's, you know.
Well, if we think about, that learning as a process, that's the ability to sort of, almost have this sort of safe circle where we can suck essentially, or make mistakes. And, I think it's great that 747 pilots do that in a simulator, right?
Yes,
Exactly.
I'm happy that they do that in a simulator. I don't want them doing that in the real world. So I think, taking your point, Stu, there are some things that we need to, that there's so much risk involved. Learning's super important, right? So you look at really risky industries, and then you look at what learning actually is.
I agree. There is a great Bluey episode on that, Tammy. I know exactly the one you're talking about in the park on the Blue on the bike. But it's we don't follow through, and I'm saying we, but I see this happening all the time. We say that we want you to learn in a safe environment. The classic of learning is I want you to make mistakes in the same safe environment so you don't make mistakes in the real world. But then we don't want you to make mistakes in a safe environment. We want you to get 100%. If you set up a learning culture, a learning system where making mistakes is not part of the deal, and if you get something wrong, we want you to start again so you get 100%. What are you inherently saying about failure and mistakes in that organization? It's like, we don't tolerate it. Perfection is what we're looking for. And life's not perfect. No one's perfect. I was, I think my average exam score at university was probably like 55%. I made it through okay. I wasn't the sharpest tool in the tool shed, never have been, but, but there's a bunch of things that I think are, beyond strategy that learning could really start to have those conversations. And sometimes it just starts with little things. Just, again, start experimenting, start trying something. And if you get it wrong, cool. Why did that go wrong? What would have made it better? And then we're going to put something out there again. But don't take 4 or 5 months to do the thing. Weeks, people, a couple of weeks, knock it out, get it out there. And work with your learning, work with your comms team, work with your marketing team. One unit, one ring that binds them all. There you go. The Lord of the Rings in there.
He's going deep. Right, we've only got a couple of minutes to go, but this has been awesome. Thank you, gentlemen. I've really enjoyed the discussion myself. Looks like you've been getting some great feedback as well. And just to pick up on that last point, Stu, I think it's moving away from expectations, right, into experimentations. I think there's a nice little link there, and that sort of comes back to Nish's point earlier as well. Right, so to wrap up, any key takeaways? If you're going to leave a little nugget of advice for someone to take away from this discussion, we've got a great book to read, Good Strategy, Bad Strategy. Great book. Get into that. Have a good read. And also Daniel Pink's number. But any nuggets?
I'll give it to Dan. I'll give it to Dan first for the last word.
Oh, that's a classic.
You mean the second to last word, Stu?
Yeah.
Oh, just ask. I mean, if you're talking to sponsors, just ask questions. Just ask.
Keep asking.
Yeah, totally. If you don't have an answer, you've got a question, right?
Yeah, and I don't know. Learning just needs to relax and not take itself so seriously. So just find out from the business what's a goal, choose a thing, pick a thing, give it a go, give it a whirl, get it out there. It won't work the first time, but cool, experiment and find out why it didn't, then do something more and have a bit of fun with it. But create. But make sure it aligns with what the business is doing and where it's going, and it's going to help people, bridge a gap in some way. But most importantly, have a bit of fun with it. Don't be so serious all the time.
Absolutely. Happy days. I think those are some really nice points to wrap up on.
And I reckon we could do another session on failure. We could do another session on habit. We could do another session on content suites. We could do a session on each of those, and there'll be a bit of fun too.
Well, there's the season mapped out, guys. So I'll see you back soon. No, but in all seriousness, thank you so much for taking an hour out of both of your days. I know you're busy men, and you got lots going on. So
he's not nearly as busy as what he tells me.
No.
Yeah. He's just, he's at home, it looks like, anyhow. But no, I really do appreciate it. You've given me lots of nuggets. You've given the audience lots of nuggets. I think there's some really nice takeaways. We'll send out a few resources afterwards. I think there's been some nice things you've both touched on. That diagram, Dan, that you spent last night designing, we'll get that out as well. But thank you all for joining. Appreciate your support. Looking forward to the next one in around about a month's time, so we'll be in touch. But have a lovely afternoon or morning wherever you are. Thank you.
Cheers, everybody. Good to see you all, or hear from you all. Bye.
Cheers.
We live in a world where e-learning design tools discourage change and limit your ideas. So courses end up looking the same, where you need specialists to create anything because they're so complicated, and things are built with legacy technology that might not always work. Welcome to Chameleon Creator, the change engine. A fully responsive authoring tool built with a design-first attitude for the next generation of the web. Gone are the days where you need to worry about coding or ensure it's compatible for all devices. We do all that behind the scenes for you. It doesn't matter what color or shape your brand is, it will look like you. Whether you're new to creating or a seasoned veteran, Chameleon Creator gives everyone the ability to design beautiful, engaging, and accessible digital learning content quickly and easily. Rapidly create content from scratch. Build amazing interactions, design for your brand, test with your end users, and deliver a beautiful learning experience just like that. Use Chameleon Creator on any learning management system or simply host and report on our platform. Our easy-to-use, customizable tools will turn you into a change maker and free you up to create positive change in the world. No matter what you're sharing, all over the world, whenever beautiful change happens, Chameleon is there.